Prologue. Boom! A small village, lost in the Carpathian Mountains, always lived quietly and peacefully. The local residents knew each other by face and genuinely believed that their tranquility could not be disturbed. However, recently, strange and frightening things began to happen in the village. It all started with the livestock disappearing. At first, a few chickens went missing, then a goat, and eventually, an entire cow. Blood traces and mysterious wounds on the bodies of the animals indicated that this was not a usual wolf attack. Some of the elders recalled the legend of the Chupacabra, a mysterious creature that sucks the blood of its victims. However, most dismissed it as mere folklore. The beginning of the horror. One cool autumn evening, as the sun was setting, a young man named Andriy suggested a walk in the forest to his girlfriend Olenka. They loved this forest, as it had witnessed their best moments. This forest knew their secrets, hidden from the world. "Let's go, my dear. I'll show you a place I found recently," Andriy said, holding Olenka's hand. "Sure, Andriy, I can't wait," Olenka replied with a smile. The forest seemed to breathe with them, sensing their joy. But the deeper they went, the quieter the bird songs and rustling leaves became. The night wrapped around them tighter, and the moonlight barely pierced through the dense tree crowns. Part of the forest. After an hour, they reached a small clearing where the ground was covered with soft grass, and tall old trees surrounded them. It was quiet here, too quiet. Andriy and Olenka sat on the grass, embraced each other, and admired the starry sky. "Do you hear how peaceful it is here?" Olenka whispered, looking into the darkness. "Yeah. It's like this place was made for us," Andriy replied, leaning in for a kiss. However, their joyful moments were interrupted by a strange noise, as if someone was rustling in the bushes. Both looked in that direction, hearts pounding faster, but they decided to ignore it, thinking it might just be a fox or a rabbit. "Probably just an animal," Andriy reassured Olenka, but he continued to listen carefully. The disappearance. When the couple returned home, they didn't know it would be their last walk. The next morning, the village woke up to terrifying screams. Neighbors saw bloody traces near their house, leading into the forest. A group of men, armed with flashlights and guns, immediately set out to search. They followed the same path that Andriy and Olenka had taken the previous evening. When they reached the clearing, they found only torn clothes and large bloodstains on the grass. "It wasn't just an animal," one of the men said, examining the tracks. "Something terrible is following us." Mysterious tracks. An old forester, who knew all the local legends, agreed to help with the search. He pointed to strange tracks leading deeper into the forest. "This is the Chupacabra," he said with fear in his eyes. "I've heard about it from my grandfather. It drinks the blood of its victims, leaving them lifeless." The forester explained that the Chupacabra is a creature that appears on the darkest nights when the moon is full. Its eyes glow red in the darkness, and its cries freeze the blood in your veins. It is fast, silent, and elusive. Desperation. Days passed, but Andriy and Olenka never returned. The village was gripped by fear. People were afraid to go outside after sunset. Everyone hoped for the return of the young couple, but hope dwindled with each passing day. One evening, when the moon was full again, animals started disappearing from the village once more. This confirmed the worst fears of the residents. The Chupacabra had returned. The local priest decided to organize a ritual to bless the village. He gathered all the villagers in the central square, where they prayed together and asked for protection from the dark forces. But this time, the Chupacabra was not just a legend, it was a reality that came from the darkness to remind people of their fragility before the forces of nature. Last hope. One of the young men, Vasil, decided to find and kill the Chupacabra himself. He was a hunter and believed he could handle any danger. Armed with a rifle and a knife, he set out into the forest. The forest greeted him silently, as it did with everyone else. Vasil felt eyes watching him from the darkness. He walked several kilometers when he suddenly heard a strange noise. The sounds were like whispers and cries at the same time. Vasil was on guard and followed the sound. When he reached the same clearing where Andriy and Olenka were last seen, he saw a horrifying sight. Andriy's body lay on the ground, his face twisted in terror and blood flowing from his neck. Nearby, in the grass, lay Alenka. Her eyes were open, but her gaze was empty. She was dead. Vasyl felt cold sweat running down his back. He knew the Chupacabra was nearby, and suddenly he saw a creature with glowing red eyes and sharp fangs approaching him from the darkness. Vasyl raised his rifle, but his hands were shaking. He fired, but missed. And then the Chupacabra lunged at him. Returned to the world. A few days later, the villagers found Vasyl's body. He lay in the same clearing where Andriy and Alenka had been found. His body was torn apart, and his face was twisted in terror. People realized that the Chupacabra continued its hunt. They understood that traditional methods of protection did not work against such a supernatural creature. Fear gripped everyone, and the village sank into an atmosphere of panic and despair. The old sage. Desperate villagers turned to the old sage who lived on the outskirts of the village. His knowledge of ancient legends and magic was known far beyond their small settlement. People believed that only he could help them get rid of the terrible monster. The sage listened to the stories about the Chupacabra with a serious expression on his face. He confirmed that it was indeed the Chupacabra, a creature that had come from the dark depths of the past. But to destroy it, we need ancient magic that has been forgotten by the current generations, he said, examining an old book of spells. Search for salvation. The sage spoke of a ritual that could help banish the Chupacabra from their land. For this, they needed to gather rare ingredients: the blood of a red rooster, a silver knife sanctified in moonlight, and wormwood grass collected at dawn. The villagers divided into groups and set out to find the necessary components. While gathering the ingredients, people couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The forest, which once seemed peaceful and welcoming, was now filled with danger and fear. Every rustling leaf, every sound caused panic. The ritual. When all the ingredients were gathered, the villagers assembled in the central square. The sage prepared the place for the ritual, outlining a circle with wormwood and placing the silver knife and the blood of the red rooster inside it. "Tonight we have a chance to stop this evil," said the sage, raising his hands to the sky. "This ritual is our only hope." The sage began reciting ancient spells, and the air around him filled with an invisible energy. The people stood in a circle, holding hands and repeating the sage's words. Everyone felt the darkness thickening around them, but they did not retreat. Final battle. Suddenly, strange sounds began to emerge from the forest, cries that resembled human ones, but were filled with pain and fear. And then, from the darkness, the Chupacabra appeared. Its eyes glowed red, and its fangs were covered in blood. The sage lifted the silver knife and, uttering the final spell, threw it in the direction of the creature. The knife struck the Chupacabra straight in the heart, and it roared in pain. Its body began to shake, and blood flowed from its mouth. It tried to escape, but its strength was failing. The villagers saw the creature fall to the ground and begin to disintegrate into dust. When the Chupacabra disappeared, the forest once again became peaceful and quiet. People sighed with relief, feeling that the nightmare was finally over. A new beginning. After these events, the village gradually recovered. People began to go outside again after sunset, and livestock stopped disappearing. They remembered what had happened and honored the memory of those who died in the fight against evil. The sage remained in the village, continuing to teach the younger generation ancient knowledge and magic, so that such terrible events would never happen again. The forest, which had once been a witness to fear and death, now became a symbol of the strength and unity of the villagers. The village lived in peace once more, but the people always remembered that darkness could return. They learned to be cautious and to cherish every moment of their lives, knowing that true strength lies not in magic but in unity and faith in each other. Epilogue. The night forest, as before, was a place of mysteries and secrets. But now people knew that any evil could be defeated if they acted together. The Chupacabra remained only a memory, a terrifying tale told by the fire. However, they always remembered the creature and the fact that it could return. The story of the Chupacabra became a warning for future generations. Darkness is always near, but light can always defeat it if people stay together and believe in their strength. the passing of time. Years turned into decades, and the legend of the Chupacabra became a distant memory, a ghost story told to frighten children around campfires. The village grew and thrived, its inhabitants moving forward, but never forgetting the lessons of the past. The ancient knowledge of the sage was preserved and passed down, a sacred trust to protect against the unknown. A growing discontent. However, as new generations came of age, skepticism grew. The young people of the village, who had not experienced the horrors of the past, began to doubt the old stories. They saw the rituals and ancient practices as mere superstition, relics of a bygone era. One particularly bold young man named Ivan openly mocked the old ways. "These are just fairy tales," he said to his friends one evening. "There are no monsters in the forest, only our fears." His words resonated with many of his peers, and soon the village was divided. The older generation clung to their traditions, while the younger ones began to push for change, advocating for a future free of what they saw as baseless fears. A foreboding night. One moonless night, as the villagers went about their evening routines, a sense of unease settled over the village. The air felt heavy, and the usual sounds of the night, the chirping of crickets, the rustling of leaves, were conspicuously absent. In the dead of night, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. The villagers rushed out of their homes, their hearts pounding with dread. They found Maria, a young woman, trembling and pale. She had been out gathering herbs and had seen something in the forest, something with glowing red eyes. "It's just a trick of the light," Ivan said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. "There's no such thing as chupacabras." Renewed vigilance. Despite Ivan's assurances, the village elders took Maria's warning seriously. They gathered in the town square and performed the ancient protective rituals, hoping to ward off any potential danger. But the younger villagers remained skeptical, and Ivan's voice was the loudest among them. "Why are we wasting our time with this nonsense?" he argued. "We should be focusing on real threats, not imaginary monsters." The elders knew they had to act decisively. They decided to organize a night watch to patrol the village and the surrounding forest. Ivan, confident in his disbelief, volunteered to lead the patrol. He was determined to prove once and for all that the Chupacabra was nothing but a myth. Into the darkness. Armed with torches and weapons, Ivan and his group set out into the forest. The night was eerily quiet, and even the bravest among them felt a chill in the air. They walked for hours, their torches casting long, dancing shadows on the trees. Suddenly they heard a rustling in the bushes. Ivan raised his torch, and the group saw a pair of glowing red eyes staring back at them. For a moment everyone froze, unable to believe what they were seeing. "It's just an animal," Ivan insisted, though his voice trembled. "Let's move closer and see." As they approached, the creature let out a terrifying growl. It lunged at them with incredible speed, and the group scattered in panic. Ivan tried to fight it off, but the creature was too fast and too strong. A desperate battle. The village was awakened by the sounds of screams and growls. The remaining villagers grabbed their weapons and rushed into the forest. They found Ivan and his group in the midst of a desperate battle with the Chupacabra. The creature was unlike anything they had ever seen, larger than a wolf, with razor-sharp fangs and claws. Its eyes burned with an unnatural light, and it moved with terrifying speed and agility. The villagers fought bravely, but it quickly became clear that they were outmatched. The Chupacabra tore through their ranks, leaving a trail of blood and destruction in its wake. The power of unity. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, the elder sage appeared. Though frail and aged, his presence commanded respect. He raised his hands and began to chant the ancient spells, his voice steady and strong. The younger villagers, seeing the power of the sage's magic, joined hands and added their voices to the chant. The air around them shimmered with energy, and the Chupacabra paused, seemingly disoriented. Together the sage shouted, "We must act together." The villagers, young and old, united in their efforts. They formed a circle around the creature, their combined magic creating a barrier that the Chupacabra could not penetrate. The sage continued to chant, and the villagers repeated his words with growing confidence. The final stand. The Chupacabra roared in fury, its eyes blazing with malice. It lunged at the barrier, but was repelled by the combined power of the villagers. The sage, with the last of his strength, raised the silver knife, the same one used in the ritual many years ago, and hurled it at the creature. The knife struck the Chupacabra in the heart, and it let out a final, agonizing scream. Its body convulsed, then began to disintegrate into dust. The villagers watched in awe as the creature was finally vanquished. A new era. With the Chupacabra defeated, the village breathed a collective sigh of relief. The elders and the younger generation came together, realizing that their strength lay not in their differences, but in their unity. They pledged to honor the old traditions while embracing the future, knowing that they were stronger together. The sage, his task complete, passed away peacefully, knowing that the village was in good hands. The villagers built a monument in his honor, a reminder of the power of knowledge, courage, and unity. Legacy of the Chupacabra. The story of the Chupacabra became a symbol of the village's resilience and strength. It was a tale told to remind future generations of the importance of unity and the power of belief. The forest, once a place of fear, became a symbol of their victory over darkness. The villagers continued to live in peace, but they never forgot the lessons of the past. They knew that darkness could return, but they were prepared. The legacy of the Chupacabra lived on, not as a source of fear, but as a testament to the enduring power of hope and unity. And so the village thrived, a beacon of light in a world that could be dark and uncertain. The legend of the Chupacabra remained, a reminder that no matter how great the threat, the human spirit, united and strong, could always prevail.